Hey, how's it going guys? It's Nate here. And Skyrim is a game where doing battle and overpowering your foes is an absolute necessity. Whether it's slaying dragons to make the world a safer place, or butchering innocent townsfolk to do the opposite, you're gonna have to engage in quite a bit of combat during your time within the Elder Scrolls V. Thankfully, the RPG offers us a seemingly countless array of swords, daggers, hammers, and staffs to do just that. Each one coming with its own selection of stats, advantages, and disadvantages, giving us cause to try them all. Most of the weapons we encounter in Skyrim belong to certain generic categories, with little distinction. Imperial swords, elven bows, Daedric daggers, you get the idea. The majority of items we come across aren't very special, and most of those that are spoon-fed to us via specific quests as rewards. However, there's a certain handful of tools for destruction across the game that are unique and especially difficult to acquire, that the game doesn't hand to us, ones that are custom and not so obvious to obtain. So, whether you're looking for more ways to damage your enemies, or just want some collectibles in your inventory, today we'll be exploring 5 more unique and secret weapons you may have missed in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Starting off, our first weapon can be found within Liar's Retreat, perhaps one of the most unique dungeons in Skyrim. It was once a hidden-away cave-slash-tavern that exclusively catered to bandits and the Reach's criminal underworld. However, when the Dragonborn arrives, they'll find the location overrun with Falmer, and littered with the corpses of its former patrons. As the player progresses throughout the structure, it'll eventually become apparent that these Falmer invaders tunneled their way in here from a dwarven ruin and attacked, massacring the clientele who were likely very surprised and probably had quite a bit of meat in their system, taking a few prisoners. If you choose to follow the passages, you'll be led to the caverns these Blind Eye invaders came from, where some captured bandits and human sacrifices can be seen. Among the dead will be a special named character, a Breton in chef's attire, named Rod, who lies atop a small altar, seemingly killed in some ritualistic fashion. And next to his body, his equally unique weapon, the Longhammer, can be looted. The Longhammer at first comes across as not that special. It boasts the same model, texture, and stats as a normal Orcish warhammer. Well, it boasts all the same stats, except for one: weight. It's 30% lighter than its counterpart, and that seemingly small distinguishing factor makes all the difference. Because not only does a reduced weight stat translate to less of a burden in your inventory, but it also means the Warhammer swings 30% faster, easily making it the fastest swinging two-handed weapon in the game, and allowing it to do not more damage per hit, but per second than pretty much any other item in its class. Furthermore, the object's very existence itself seems to be a bit of an Easter egg by Bethesda, a nod to Rod Longhammer, a character featured in Session 5 of a Penny Arcade PvP Dungeons & Dragons game played at PAX 2010, that featured Will Wheaton. The Longhammer is of course the Warhammer's name, and Rod was the man who wielded it in life. Or, I guess, in the Dungeons & Dragons game. So this powerful blunt object in Skyrim has a special story to match her special stats. Next on our list, we have the Dragon Priest Staff. Now this magical stick of doom is interesting for a few reasons. Not only does it boast a custom model and texture, plus hold its own in terms of stats when compared to other staves, but players aren't really supposed to be able to use it. And the way one goes about obtaining such an object is quite extraordinary. Let me explain. During the climax of Skyrim's main questline, the captured dragon Odahviing will inform the player that Alduin is currently pillaging around in Sovngarde, and to get to there, you must journey to his fortress in the mountains of Skuldafn, where his portal to the realm can be located. At Skuldafn, towards the top of the ruin, just as we're about to enter Alduin's gateway to Sovngarde, we'll run into Nakrin, one of Alduin's dragon priests, who upon detecting us, will remove a staff from a switch, closing the portal, and then using it against us. This is the staff we're after. We'll have to defeat Nakrin, and place the staff back into the switch to reactivate the gateway, and continue our hunt for the World Eater. Now, you'll notice that due to the way this quest is structured, it looks all but impossible for us to actually keep the Dragon Priest staff, as we need to place it back in order to continue the quest. Alas, looks can be deceiving. If the Dovahkiin manages to kill Nakrin, immediately after he removes the staff, loot his corpse, take it from him, and quickly jump into the portal, all in rapid succession, it's seriously a window of just a couple of seconds, you'll be able to make it into Sovngarde with the Dragon Priest staff in your inventory, and she'll be all yours. It is a very difficult process, but once you finally get it, it'll be extremely rewarding. In terms of actual practicality, the blue wand isn't half bad. When sprayed on the ground, it creates a wall of lightning that inflicts 50 points of shock damage per second upon characters, and lasts for 30 seconds, which can prove useful, especially if you aren't very acquitted in magic. But admittedly, if you're already this far in the main quest line, chances are you've already acquired some other weapons or spells that are just as, if not more efficient. So the real draw of owning this weapon isn't its effectiveness, but rather as a collectible and a testament to your determination. Regardless, we can always still use it to teach a certain arrogant Redguard a bit of a lesson. Coming in at number 3, we journey to the happy little woodland oasis of Bloated Man's Grotto. An interesting combination of dungeon and forest in Whiterun, populated mostly by furry little critters. The location is rather small, but contains what appears to be the ruins of a once minor fort. And here, lying before a shrine to Talos, will be a note, titled Bolar's Writ. It reads as follows, quote, "To he who finds this, know that I, Asilius Bolar, last of the blades to survive the attack on Cloud Ruler Temple, took refuge here, in this ancient sanctuary. The Thalmor have come for me, but they shall not desecrate this place. I go forth to meet my death with honor. If you are worthy, take up my blade, and do the same." The sword he's talking about will be lying just next to the writ in front of the statue, Bolar's Oathblade. Its appearance is identical to that of the blade swords we see so many of in Skyrim's main questline, which makes pretty good sense, considering its wielder, Asilius Bolar, appears to have been a blade himself, who made his last stand here against the Thalmor, as the Dominion purged the organization some 25 years ago, during and in the aftermath of its great war with the Empire. It's not just looks though. The base stats are also the same as those found on a normal blade sword, though its value is much higher, selling for 1,014 septims compared to the generic brand's 300. Additionally, where the item really stands out are its two enchantments. On top of the base damage to health it deals, Bolar's Oathblade also dishes out 25 points of additional stamina damage to foes per swing, plus causes opponents up to level 12 to flee from combat for 30 seconds. Altogether, factoring in just how easy this weapon is to acquire, combined with that Hysteria enchantment, makes it an ideal choice for players fresh out of Helgen. It'll be incredibly effective against low-level enemies, and you don't have to do much of anything but walk down a road near Whiterun to get it. Now, I did specify that in this video, I'm doing my best to stay away from unique weapons that are fed to us via quests, and Bloated Man's Grotto is the setting for the climax of Hircine's stage request, Ill Met by Moonlight. But, while that quest is active, Bolar's Oathblade and his note will actually despawn and not appear. So the only way to get this is to come to the location on your own personal intuition. And that just makes having this in your inventory feel all that more satisfying. Getting close to the end here at number 4, we have a blunt force object that's not necessarily hidden. In fact, it's among Skyrim's most famous items. But the fact that we can obtain, I use that word loosely, you'll see why in a second, it and how we do so are known to very few players. I, of course, am speaking of the Giants Club, the force behind Skyrim's space program. Found in the oversized hands of pretty much every giant, chances are you've come across this great smashy stick quite a few times. Alas, the game never gives us the opportunity to interact with these clubs once we've killed the bearers. We can't loot them off of corpses, or even have our followers engage with them. Well, there is a single lone Giants Club in the game that defies this principle, and can be interacted with. Kind of. At Tumble Arch Pass, a giant encampment on the western edge of the Pale, an all-by-itself Giants Club lies sitting just before a ledge overlooking the camp, and when approached, you'll instantly notice that this one can be interacted with. You'll be able to move it around, and be given the prompt to pick it up. But when you try to, the game simply won't allow it. Despite us being given the option to, Skyrim won't let us actually pick up the Giants Club. That said, followers can be directed to do just that, and they'll add it to their inventories just fine, without a fuss. Assuming they have a decent two-handed skill, they should equip it immediately after picking it up. Though if they don't, I'd recommend simply going into their inventories and removing every other potential weapon. Unfortunately, when we do look at what they're carrying, the Giants Club won't be listed, and there's fundamentally no way for us, the player, to use it for ourselves. But that doesn't mean it's not very helpful, or just hilarious to watch your followers run around with. It relies on the Great Sword animation package, so your followers will look quite out of place wielding it around. But my gosh, is the damage not absolutely incredible. It's calculated in a really funny way that's somewhat hard to understand and even more difficult to explain, but when wielded by a follower with a high level and two-handed, it will be the best weapon in the game. Period. Oddly enough, and this is why I say the calculations are funny, when given to a follower with a low two-handed skill, it doesn't perform all that great. For whatever reason, its effects just seem to be exaggerated exponentially beyond any other item when given to people with that good two-handed skill. Unfortunately, your followers won't be smashing people into the sky like the giants who wield this item do. That's sadly just not a power people seem to have. But nonetheless, this is an insanely good weapon to give to specific followers, and I highly recommend you try it out. And finally, our last item on this list can be found at Hag's End, an ancient Nordic ruin currently occupied by some Forsworn soldiers and their Hagraven allies. After you fought your way through this truly massive dungeon, you'll find yourself on the edge of the structure, with a beautiful view of the surrounding area. And here will also be an altar with a sacrificed woman on top of it, and next to her body will be a unique steel dagger, Thorn. At first, much like Bolar's Oathblade, there doesn't seem to be very much distinguishing Thorn from its base weapon. Its stats are pretty much the same, minus its value. Thorn is 10 times more valuable than a normal steel dagger, but as was the case with Bolar's Blade, its real distinguishing factors come in with the enchantments. Foes killed, or within 3 seconds of being hit by Thorn, will immediately fill a soul gem. That's the first major enchantment, which can prove pretty useful for mages. But it also comes with a second, unlisted magical effect that the game doesn't tell us about. It also drains your opponent's health by 10 points per swing, making every strike with this dagger deal a total of 15 points worth of damage rather than just 5. For context, the dagger with the highest base damage in the entire game is the Dragonborn dagger, and it only boasts 12 points. So, while Thorn may not look all that powerful, as we've already established, looks can be very deceiving. And with that, we are going to wrap up. 5 more secret and unique weapons you may have missed in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of these tools of chaos did you find to be the coolest or most interesting? Personally, the Longhammer was my favorite, just because of how surprisingly effective it turned out to be. And what special and hidden-ish objects have I yet to cover, but definitely should? leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.